he goes into the bathroom, you hear the shower turn on, and you pick up his phone. Or maybe you've gotten past that, and maybe you just pick it up while he's sitting right there, and you watch his face while you do it. Your breathing goes shallow before you've even unlocked the screen. There's a buzz in your ears, and there's already a knot somewhere in your stomach. You're checking for signs your husband is still using porn, or maybe checking for signs that he's stopped. And after a while, those two things maybe start to feel almost the same.
And you've been doing this for weeks, maybe months. Maybe if you're honest with yourself, you've lost count of how long. And today we're going to talk about why you can't stop and what it's costing you. And then something Caleb's going to tell us in a bit that might sound like bad news the first time you hear it, but it isn't. It might actually be the most useful thing in this video. But here's what I want to say first, and I'm going to say it directly. Like, checking his phone is not paranoia. It's not controlling behavior. It's not some sign that you have unresolved trust issues that need to be fixed before you're ready to be in a relationship. Like, this is a completely logical response to having the ground yanked out from under you. Like, when you discovered his porn use, or when you started suspecting it, your brain received a threat signal. And like, something that was supposed to be safe turned out not to be. And since then, your nervous system has been doing what it was built to do, like scan for danger, look for evidence, try to find where the ground, like stable ground, actually is. And checking his phone, checking on him is how you've been trying to find that stable ground again.
Yep. Yeah. And I want to add something here too, because it actually changes how you understand what's happening in these moments in this context. Depending on where your husband is right now in his own process, the checking might actually be catching real things. Not every partner, and not all of you who are listening to this right now, are in a situation where the acting out has stopped. And so there's really two situations we see, and we're trying to balance it a little bit as we talk through this. The first is that when a man is discovered, and we're using sort of the most common gendered arrangement that we hear when we work with clients and just in the community as you guys are listening and interacting with us, but all of this is reversible, of course. So, but when a man is discovered, he doesn't get help always. I was trying to think about
he may not get help.
The right word to qualify that with. Sometimes he just gets more careful, and the browsing goes further underground, and then histories get cleared more consistently, like he knows it's on your radar now, and the secrecy gets more sophisticated. And if that's where you are, your instincts aren't wrong. We don't want you to shame you in any way for the reactions that you're having, because there's an alarm ringing, because there's still something there, and it should be ringing. It should be ringing. But here's the thing, and the second part of this, the alternative, the other side of this, is actually harder to describe. And in this case, the betraying partner, the man perhaps, or whatever, has genuinely gotten some sobriety. He's trying, and there's a part of you that can see that. But sometimes in that scenario, we've seen it where he makes a decision that completely backfires on him. He thinks that if he hides how hard this struggle still is for him, you will hurt less. So he maintains some behaviors, like he deflects, he tells you he's fine, he gets vague when you ask direct questions. But the thing is, like, to a partner who's already been lied to, vague reassurances and active deceptions, even if it's in this context somewhat innocently directed towards not wanting you to feel worse about things, those feel identical to the actual hiding behaviors of the addiction when he was really hiding something. Because in a real way, they are quite similar. There's certainly massive echoes, if not the same thing. And so the betrayed partner's your gut keeps firing away. Your nervous system's like, it's not right, something's off here, and you keep checking, and neither of you understand why things aren't getting better, even though he might have, in this case, stopped the acting out behavior.
And both of those situations produce the same alarm that won't shut off, which is a big part of why this phase is so exhausting to live in.
Yeah.
Right? Like, hypervigilance has a physical toll on our bodies.
It takes...
Yeah.
It takes, like, not to oversimplify, but it takes calories for your nervous system to be in that state all the time.
Yeah.
And all the stress hormones that go with that and everything else.
And then the effects of those stress hormones. Yeah.
It's expensive.
Yeah. So what is it actually doing to our body? I think partners who've been in this phase a long time sometimes wonder like if they're being dramatic. And I want to be very clear, like you're not being dramatic. Fight or flight is not a mental state. Like it's a physical one, a physical thing that happens in our body. And if you've been in detective mode for months, your body's been running like this low grade version of a physical emergency response almost without stopping. And you probably recognize some of this, like the buzz or the ringing the moment you pick up his phone, or like the super dry mouth, the shallow chest breathing that you don't notice until you realize like you've been doing it for an hour and you take a breath, you can finally get a breath. Your heart rate jumping before you've even opened anything on his phone, the knot in your stomach that's already there before you're fully awake and still there when you can't fall asleep at night. And here's what makes it particularly cruel. Like none of it goes away, even when you don't find anything. You're checking, you don't find anything, your body doesn't respond or doesn't relax, right? You can put the phone down within the hour, that hum is back, the buzzing's back, the dry mouth is back, because you're not just responding to evidence, you're responding to a nervous system that's been trained to expect danger.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted just like reiterating.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, the physical
It's just a huge burden
response.
to carry.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
So again, we're not saying something is wrong with you. We're saying this is what a body does when it's been in red alert for too long. It doesn't know how to stand down on its own.
Yeah. Yeah. And what this costs women over months and years is not a small thing. Partners running on 4 or 5 hours of broken sleep consistently, women who develop stress-related symptoms, autoimmune conditions that their doctors can't explain, that showed up right around discovery and yet won't resolve, women who've made mistakes at work where normally they're super competent, miss things with family where they're usually on top of it, stop doing the things that used to bring them life and used to restore them. The hypervigilance of betrayal trauma is a real medical and psychological event. It's not insecurity. It's what happens to a body that's been in red alert for far too long.
If you've just recognized yourself in that list, like that's not a coincidence. There is a path out of this. It just probably doesn't look like what you've been trying.
Yeah. And so let's talk about like why that gut feeling won't go away for Linda.
Yeah.
And this is something that I want to name here because I think it matters, even though it's a little uncomfortable or difficult to hear. And I know we have a very gracious audience. They would rather have the truth, even if it's hard to hear. So, but at some point in all of this, a lot of partners hit a specific wall. They're in the middle of checking something and they realize, you know what? I genuinely can't tell right now if I'm reacting to a real signal, like I'm reacting to something I should be reacting to, or if this is a trauma response to something that's completely innocent. And feel free to kind of nuance my language
something that's
here.
happened in the past. Like I'm responding to something that's happened in the past.
Yeah, it could have been triggered by a show, but I'm now examining something over here, right? And so again, like the knot before you open his phone, is it because something's actually wrong, or is it because my body learned to brace itself and just never stopped? And we're not inviting you to question yourself, but just stay with us because we're moving you towards a deeper level of self-awareness. We're just kind of raising, hey, this is how this works here. So let me get clinical with you for a second, because this is one of the most disorienting features of chronic betrayal trauma. The alarm system that was originally calibrated to real danger becomes very hard to distinguish from a nervous system that's been rewired by repeated exposure to threat, to this betrayal danger. And you've been lied to. And your read on the situation has been wrong before, and it's been right before. But this is what makes it so confusing. Sometimes when it's wrong, it can be wrong in a good direction and wrong in a bad direction. Like you think there's something there and there's not.
Right.
You think there's nothing there and you find something.
Yeah.
And that just boils up the whole, like, can I trust myself? Never mind trust him thing, which is super complex to navigate in all of this. But now even your body's own signals, like the ones that are supposed to be your most reliable data, they feel like they might not be trustworthy. And man, this is just so tough. So here's what I want to say to be clear with this. Like, we ourselves as trained therapists often can't tell from the outside which situation a partner is actually in. Is it the hypervigilance tracking something real? Or is it a trauma response in an environment that's now actually safe? Without directly assessing both people, and even that not always being effective, without having a lot more information, seeing what happens over time, the honest answer is often that we don't know either. And I'm not saying that to raise your feelings of impossibility, but just to acknowledge and validate the struggle of how hard it is to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
Like
it
take
is
the
to
pressure
know.
off yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So what that means for you practically is that like you're not failing at something that you should be able to sort out on your own. Like, no, like that uncertainty is real. The difficulty trusting your own signals is real. It's part of this injury. It's not a sign of something wrong with you specifically. And it's also part of why the checking tends to escalate rather than resolve. Like, it can give you data, but certainty, like the actual felt sense that you are safe, checking cannot produce that, no matter what you find. And I think that's, I know we're going to get into it more, but like that's so important, is like the checking doesn't actually bring peace.
In very clinical terms, it doesn't regulate your nervous system,
Yeah.
but it's probably being used to try to achieve that.
Yes. And it makes sense why you want to do it.
Yes.
And yet at the same time, it's generally escalating anxiety rather than
Yes.
relieving it.
And I think this is helpful to talk about the open loop here. Like,
Okay.
because this is like a feature of trauma, right? Is you can't resolve the situation and you've had this betrayal trauma. And in any kind of trauma, it's like it opens a loop in our brain and we can't close the story. We can't finish it. We can't complete it. So we turn naturally to behaviors that attempt to close the loop, to try to make sense of it so we can rest and feel at peace. And this, the hypervigilance, the searching, the checking, the policing, the detective work is all an attempt to close the loop.
Right.
But it's not
But it
effective
doesn't actually do it.
for
Yeah.
closing it.
Yeah.
And that is very frustrating
Yeah.
for people
So-
in betrayal.
So why doesn't finding proof like fix it or close the loop?
So here's the thing that I mentioned at the start, the thing that might sound like bad news, but I think will be helpful. Finding proof gives you data. As I've been alluding to, and Verlynda's been alluding to, though, it does not give you peace, that sort of groundedness in yourself, in your soul. And I want to say that again, because it's easy to move past it, move past this. Like, finding proof gives you data, or even finding that there's no proof, like there's no bad evidence, gives you data, but it doesn't actually give you peace. Now, truth matters, and honesty is the only foundation that real recovery should be built on. So I'm not saying that what he's doing doesn't matter or that it's irrelevant. But what I'm asking you to look at is what you're actually looking for when you start the checking, when you pick up his phone at midnight or whatever it might be. It's not just information. It's your nervous system trying to settle, trying to stop the anxiety, trying to find the ground under your feet. And here's what we see consistently in practice, that facts don't regulate nervous systems.
Yeah.
Feelings, understanding them, noticing them, taking care of them, those do. So a partner who confirms her husband has been genuinely sober for 6 months doesn't automatically feel safe. And a partner who ends up confirming that he relapsed doesn't necessarily feel more anxious than she did before she even checked, because some part of her probably already knew. Okay? And it can be good to validate the part of you that already knew and begin to build that sense of wisdom. But the point is that the nervous system doesn't process information like a spreadsheet. It responds to felt safety, to emotional experience, to the quality of connection and attunement in that relationship and during this phase in other relationships that are safe and supportive for you, okay? Including your relationship to your own body. Data feeds the mind, Healing the nervous system is a different kind of work, and it needs a different approach.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I sat with women who've got the full confession.
Yeah.
It might be tearful, like, I'm so sorry for everything confession. The detailed one. And the response is almost always the same. Like, the relief was short term. It lasted a bit. And then the knot was back.
Yeah.
Or then the whatever their body response is,
Uncertainty,
the uncertainty,
anxiety.
the heavy chest, the empty chest, whatever it might be, right? Like, the confession answered the cognitive question, but it didn't repair the nervous system. Like, those are not the same thing.
Yes. And one more thing here, like specifically for partners whose husbands are still actively using now, we have never seen evidence work as the thing that drives a porn addict into treatment. Never? Might be too strong of a word. I can't think of a time.
I wouldn't say never.
Sometimes definitely getting caught and getting this all blown out into the open has helped. But I think there's often, like, if I can just get evidence, if I can prove to him that he's doing this, which sounds really interesting when you say that out loud, then he'll get treatment, right?
Or then he'll stop.
Then he'll stop. Or, seek help, ideally. So confronting him with browser history, screenshots, even bank statements if it's gone financial, might produce a confession or a partial admission, or even a complete acknowledgement or something. It may produce shame, it may produce promises, but it's not the same as recovery and getting into recovery. So recovery has to come from inside the addict, from a genuine reckoning with what the addiction is costing him or her. Your detective work can force a confrontation, and yet it cannot create his motivation to get well. And that powerlessness for you as the partner is brutal to sit with. And I hope it's okay for us to name that, however, just to say, like, of course you want this, and it doesn't move him into recovery, though. Does that make sense? You want to nuance
it
that
does.
at all?
I do want to nuance it a little bit, because there are times, like, I can't go with the never route, I think, because there are times where the information is presented, and like that I've discovered this kind of information.
Yeah.
And that does prompt them when they realize the impact that this has had, and it does prompt them to go seek help.
Yes.
Help.
Yeah.
So
True.
I don't want to go the never route. That sounds really hopeless. Like, I have to sit here and do nothing until they get the internal motivation. Sometimes people get the internal motivation when they see the consequences of their actions.
Yeah. Yeah, and people are all different too. Like some, the getting caught has relief, and now I can get help finally. Before I couldn't get help
because it was a secret. Yes.
That's the challenge with making these videos about humans, is that there's always exceptions.
I know.
I think where we're kind of centering on is like the chronic detective work scenarios where I'm like investigating all the time.
After it's already come out.
After it's been discovered.
Yes.
Then we're more
Agreed
towards
with
the
that
highly
part.
unlikely to help you situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
But I just want to give a little bit of hope, though. Like, if you've discovered this, and like this is the first discovery, it's okay to raise it.
Yes.
You don't have to sit there helpless and hopeless until he decides internally to change. That's where I was going with that.
For sure. And for those of you just coming to the channel, like, we record these in batches, and in this batch, there's 4 videos in a batch. In this batch, we're going to get to like some of the things you can do that actually help create a situation where addicts are more likely to get help.
Yeah.
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 So stick with us, please, if you could.
So we actually just want to pause here for a sec and ask something that we're genuinely curious about. Like, at what point did the checking for you stop feeling like gathering information and start feeling like something like you just had to do, regardless of what you found? Like, if you've been in this phase, is there a moment you can name when you notice that shift in yourself? Drop it in the comments. Like, we read every one of those. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. So how do we make that shift from how do I catch him, Verlynda, to how do I protect my peace or restore my peace?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Because like, if checking won't give you what you need and proof won't regulate your nervous system, what does? That's the big question here. So the shift we want to offer is this: from how do I catch him, as Caleb said, to how do I protect my peace regardless of what he's doing. And I want to be clear before anything else. Like, this is not giving up. It's not deciding his recovery doesn't matter or that you'll quietly accept whatever comes. It's recognizing what you actually have control over and choosing to put your energy there instead of in the place that has been draining you without giving anything back. We have control over our own healing.
Yes.
Right? And I know that for some of you watching, professional support isn't accessible right now. Some of you don't have coverage that pays for specialized betrayal trauma work. Some of you are in places where the therapist who understands this specific injury, not general infidelity, but like the particular damage of being repeatedly deceived by someone you were intimate with, that person isn't local and the laws in your area make remote care complicated. Like, that barrier is real and we don't want to pretend that it isn't there. So let's talk about what healing can look like at different points of access. So if you can work with a therapist who specializes in betrayal trauma, like, that's the most direct route kind of here from A to B. Not because the external situation is resolved, but because you're building something internally that doesn't depend entirely on what he does next.
That's such a shift right there.
That's such a shift. Like, it just gives me such power, not power over, but power within, like agency.
Yep.
Yeah. So books like Betrayed Bond by Patrick Carnes can do...
Betrayal.
What did I say?
Betrayed.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
just in case they're searching it up.
Yes,
Yeah,
Betrayal Bonds by Patrick Carnes. Like, you can do the real work there if therapy isn't accessible right now. There's often support groups, S-Anon, POSA.
Partners of Sex Addicts.
Yeah, online communities of betrayed partners. I think btr.org is one of those, like, where you're genuinely not the only person in the room who knows what it feels like to pick up a device of his with your hands shaking.
Yes.
Right? Somatic practices help. Breath work, movement, the kind of regulation work that targets the nervous system directly, not just the thoughts about it. A grounded friend who can sit with you without minimizing or catastrophizing. Like, your nervous system can settle in the presence of someone who is calm and safe. That is a real mechanism. And you don't always need a professional for it.
Yes. Yeah. And I want to say another thing that's a little bit hard here. I don't know why I got all the hard things today, but I'm going to say it because we've watched it happen too many times to stay quiet about it. This is one of the tough realities and part of our passion around why we really want to bring hope to betrayed partners, okay? We have watched men get genuinely sober from pornography addiction. Amazing the stories that go through our clinic, through our practice, get into a solid recovery, and not all the time, but sometimes watched their marriages fall apart anyways. Not because he ended up failing in his sobriety, his recovery work, but because she never got the help that she needed. And the betrayal trauma went untreated for years, and the damage that the things he was doing did to her, that created the hypervigilance, the erosion of trust, the way she learned to brace herself as a default, those things did not heal and did not go away when his behavior changed. And so he might have actually become a trustworthy person, but that work of recovery does not undo the trauma. And this is such a critical piece. His betrayal can create the trauma. His healing and getting himself to a place where he can be a reliable, safe partner doesn't create the healing.
Yeah.
It doesn't. And that's super tough. Of course, you need that in order to feel safe. But it's not fair. It's almost like a one-way street because he can create the injury by doing something, but he can't heal the injury by doing something.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was missed was her healing. I want to hear what you have to say because it's really important we get this right and balance this, but for sure. But what was missed was her healing as its own project.
Yeah.
And that happening on its own timeline with its own support where it's dedicated to that. Not because you caused this, you did not because of that, but because your peace is yours to build, to restore, to take back, and it can't be built entirely out of what he does or does not do. Yeah. You want to tidy parts of that up?
I really liked all of that. I think I want to talk to the betrayer for a second.
Sure.
Like, this is not something for you to throw back at her and say, I've done my work. Why can't you do yours? Why can't you get over this?
Do not weaponize this.
Like, you caused this. And now she has a boatload of work to do.
Pain.
A boatload of pain. She has to like rebuild herself and her trust in herself as well as trust in you.
Her body image.
Body image, insecurities, like all sorts of things come into play here.
Yeah.
And it's never okay to sit there and go like, oh, well, this is falling apart because of you and you didn't get your healing.
No. Well, what could a recovered addict do to offer space and opportunity for her healing?
I think that like a genuine acknowledgement of the pain that he's caused,
Yeah.
of the hurt, of the unfairness,
Yeah.
that she now has healing work to do when he caused it and he can't fix it. And, you know, how can I help you find healing?
Yeah.
How can I help you find the help you need?
Yep. Yes. Opportunity for her to get the help she needs and staying 100% committed to his own recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be that safe person.
And remaining 100% committed to his own involvement in this and not blaming.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It just makes it harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another thing that probably wasn't easy to hear, but given that we're
Yes.
throwing all these not easy to hear things today. Okay. So just to sum up here, like the most important thing you can do for your marriage right now is to make it genuinely safe for her to get help and be patient while she does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can blow this up in an hour of discovery and it takes months of therapy. Yeah.
Yeah. I talk about with my betrayed wives about like trust is built like one tiny Lego block at a time.
Yeah.
And yet it can be smashed out in one event.
Yeah. Yeah. So we want to be cautious too about putting timelines on this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
all right.
if-
Let's land this plane, Verlynda.
Okay.
Or did you want to say something before we land the plane?
No, I was
Make an
just already started the landing and then you
sorry.
interrupted. Yeah.
We shall get back on track.
Yeah. So anyways, if what we've described today is where you are, like our therapists at Therapy both specialize in exactly this, not general anxiety treatment, not general couples therapy, although we do that too, but like the specific injury of betrayal trauma and what it does to a nervous system over months and years. Sessions are via Zoom, so wherever you're located usually isn't the barrier. The easiest first step is a 20-minute consultation, no charge, just to find the right fit. And the link is in the pinned comment below.
Indeed.
So let's just wrap up here with a couple questions. So 2 questions we hear a lot that we want to answer quickly. First is it normal to keep checking even when I never find anything? And I hesitate to comment on what is normal, right? Because that's different for everybody. But I can say like it makes sense. It's one of the defining features of betrayal trauma. Absence of evidence doesn't feel like safety to a nervous system that's trained to expect deception. And the checking becomes its own pattern, like separate from the original threat. And it doesn't resolve on its own with time, but it does respond to the right kind of support.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great answer. The second question often comes up is when does the hypervigilance stop? It tends to decrease as your own nervous system regulation improves, which is why investing in your own healing and developing your own boundaries and safety is often more effective than waiting for the external situation to feel safer first. Some hypervigilance may return temporarily during setbacks. That's the normal trauma response. It's not a failure if you're healing. This is not a linear kind of progression thing. We're humans again. It's messy. It kind of loops through towards healing. But with the right support and the shifts in kind of that baseline for your nervous system and checking, the checking stops being what your whole day organizes around. It becomes a smaller part of it, and you'll notice it begin to fade, is what I would say on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's what we want you to carry out of this. Like, you're not paranoid. You're not permanently broken. You're not failing at something you should be able to figure out alone. Like, you're a person whose nervous system learned to brace for impact, and it's still doing the job that it trained to do. The checking is not the problem. The checking is the signal, the symptom. And the thing that will actually bring relief is not better evidence. It's building something inside yourself that doesn't depend entirely on what he does next. Like, this, the work is yours. It doesn't wait for him to get his act together first. And this work is possible.
Yeah, it is possible, for sure. And we keep making content like this because we believe people in real pain deserve honest, clinical, grounded information about what they're actually dealing with. Not platitudes, not a list of warning signs, and not just a bunch of empathy, but the real kind of mechanism, the real path through it. And that's what we mean when we say we want to normalize therapy, the title of our show. It's not a last resort, not as something only people in crisis do, but as something people with ordinary lives use to build something better. So if this has helped you today, please subscribe and share it with someone else who needs to hear it too. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one.